guys, Brian with Cajun Cardboard coming at you from the great state of Louisiana, and I'm happy to come to you today with a little Instagram question and answer. For those of you that watch my channel and you're not on Instagram, I highly suggest you look into it. It's really amplified the joy and the fun that I get in the hobby, being able to share cards with people, getting to see other people share their cards, putting me in touch with buyers, potential sellers. It just makes transactions easier, and it's also a great sales platform because you don't pay any of those eBay fees or taxes, or you don't have to mess with any of that stuff. So Instagram's a great resource. Well, every once in a while, whenever I get to it, I like to post something on Instagram that just says, hey, we need some content for the channel. Let me have it. Give me your questions. Just post your questions in the comments section. They could be about anything. I did that maybe a week or so ago. I didn't get very many questions, but we're going to go through the questions, and I'm going to give you my answers to these questions today, and give you my perspective on all of these questions. I think I might have posted this super early in the morning, so it didn't get uploaded into people's feeds. I don't know how the algorithm works with Instagram, but I didn't get as many questions this time as I did last time, and I think it was a factor of when I actually uploaded my Instagram post asking and soliciting the questions. But I'm going to switch you over to screen share. Here's a picture of my Instagram post. Of course, it's got a picture of the great Michael Jeffrey Jordan. I'm going to use this as the picture for my question and answer session on the YouTube thumbnail as well. But let's get cranking. And here you go. You can see it says it's time for another question and answer YouTube video on the channel. Put your questions in the comments. Let's create some content together. First question comes from M. Jordan DeGoat. There's a lot of misinformation about PSA graded number 57 rookie prices. People focus on last comps for a specific grade when they need to take into account eye appeal, coloring, blemishes, centering, etc., new versus old labels. I know you covered the NBA Diamond PSA 10 on PWCC that Golden sold over 200,000, but would love a follow-up for newbies like me. And then, well, first let's talk about that. I'm not going to get into how to value a number 57, 1986 Fleer PSA 10 Jordan. That beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Everybody values those cards differently. For BGS stuff, each half subgrade matters a great deal, centering more than the others. For PSA, not all 9s look the same. Some 8s look like 10s. Some 10s look like 8s, and everything in between. So there is no rhyme or reason. The question asker, M. Jordan DeGoat, brings up a lot of interesting stuff that should be factored into the age of the label, when it was graded, the coloring on the card, the centering, with surface defects versus edgeware versus corners versus top to bottom centering, left to right centering versus top to bottom centering. There's a million, zillion, billion things to take into account when you're trying to figure out what you should pay or what your 86 Fleer Jordan PSA whatever should sell for. Who sold it? When did it sell? What time of day did it end? What platform was used to sell it? Was it Heritage? Was it Robert Edwards? Was it MySlabs? Was it Instagram? Was it Golden, PWCC, eBay? Was it Probstein on eBay? Or was it just somebody with a 12 eBay rating with a 97% feedback? There's a million zillion things that need to be factored in. NBA stickers are part of it as well. PWCC eye appeal stickers. There is a myriad of information that needs to be taken into account. There's no way I can answer this question or educate anybody on this. But what I did want to point your attention to is that this led into a completely unwarranted argument from OsMJ Dad 2321, who somehow turned that question into Star is better than Jordan. And the one thing I will say is there's nothing more annoying than someone who wants to pump star cards in an inordinate fashion, like unprovoked, just wants to pump the hell out of star cards. It's the most annoying thing in this hobby, quite possibly. Again, I have said on my channel many times, my personal opinion is I think the 86 Fleer is pack pulled. It needs to be pack pulled in order to be a true rookie card. That's just my personal opinion. That doesn't mean that the 84 star number 101 is not an important card. It is an important card. It's a crucial card. It's a very relevant card. And it is the XRC Jordan card. That being said, nothing about this question had anything to do with star, and then somebody decided to jump in and go ape shit about star cards. That's just annoys the hell out of me, and probably shouldn't give it too much time on my channel, but I will. And of course, he talks about how the star is more valuable, less less valuable, more of them, less of them. That's great. It's all facts. I mean, you can go look at the pop reports. You can go look at the sales data. You can come to your own conclusion. You know, there's other cards out there that are more valuable than both the Star and the PSA 10 Jordan for that matter. So, again, talking about which one's more valuable or whether there's more or less of a card doesn't change someone's opinion on what a rookie card is. But the guy just asked a question about 86 Fleer number 57. So I'm not going to get into that diatribe. I've got a video out there on the Star 101. I've got a video out there about the Star 101 versus the 86 Fleer. If you want to check it out, go search my channel and you can find it. It was months and months ago. Next question. If the Beckett grading post is true, the scale works for subgrades, but what about no subgrades? Auto downgrade to Mint Plus as opposed to Gem Mint. And the answer is, yeah, I think so. And I answered him. I said, I think subs, no sub 9.5s, right? BGS gives this option of getting your card graded with no subgrades. Why anyone would choose to do that, I have no idea, because it's proven with Beckett to sell for much less when you don't put the subgrades on there, because it leaves people guessing. Why that doesn't apply to PSA, I don't know. It's not my job to decipher that, but it is a fact that BGS 9.5s with no subgrades do not sell as well as BGS 9.5s with subgrades. Sometimes even when the subgrades are not great subgrades. That's just the case. So I think he's correct. Again, let's be very clear. I put that video out on March 31st when BGS was announcing the changes they were going to make. They changed those revised grading scale plans overnight, and then they decided the next day to completely revoke them and put them on pause. And so as of right now, Beckett is making no changes to their grading scale. You can argue all you want about whether that was a good decision or whether that, I saw a video out there about how someone was like, you shouldn't give Beckett credit for pulling the plug on this. They should have consulted people in the first place. Well, both can be true. Yes, Beckett should have done a much better job of consulting the hobby to anticipate this horrific, vehement, violent, negative reaction that they got in an overwhelming fashion. They should have known that, and they should have done their due diligence and put a survey out there, or at least gotten the pulse of the hobby to know this was coming. This vitriol was inevitable. They didn't do that. But that doesn't change the fact that you can still be glad that they did pull the plug and walk this back and not implement these changes the next day. Both can be true. Yes, they should have pulled people, and yes, I'm glad they walked it back. So that's where I'm at. The question of what would have happened under these new revised Beckett grading scale guidelines for 9.5s that have no subgrades, I think the answer is the cards would have just been held in limbo, sort of like Han Solo in Return of the Jedi when he was frozen. He's there, but he's not aging, and he looks the same when he comes out of it. But I think those 9.5s with no subs would have remained in those slabs unless the person decided to send them back to Beckett. But if they were sent back to Beckett, they just would have been graded under the new guidelines. But that's neither here nor there. It's all superfluous. And as Eddie Murphy said in the great Saturday Night Live skit, the question is moot. Again, not a battle that we need to fight right now. Let's see where Beckett goes with these new grading scale guidelines and see if they change it. Next question, Malinches. I don't know if that's how I pronounced it. Forgive me, Jose, if I got that incorrect. But BGS versus PSA, your personal thoughts going forward on MJ cards slabbed in these cases going forward. BGS gems of MJ are so much cheaper. Are we forgetting to buy the card over the grading company? We are. And my motto is logic over labels. That is what I have chosen. And this has got to be copyright Cajun Cardboard. Logic over labels is another way of saying buy the card, not the grade. Right? Some cards are higher graded that are actually not as pristine or not as a high quality condition as cards that were graded either by another company or even the same company in a lower grade. Logic over labels. Buy the card, not the grade. Those are synonymous, one and the same. Yes, Jose, I agree with you. We are, and I myself included, oftentimes I'll buy PSA 10s that don't look as good as a BGS 9.5. Just because I'm an OCD weirdo bastard. It's just one of those deals. Like different people are different, but I'm not here to tell anybody how to collect. Some people like to pay that PSA 10 premium because it lowers the pop count, and they think that will help the value of those cards age better historically, and because there's more prestige to owning a very low pop PSA 10 than averaging a higher pop PSA 9 or PSA 8. I dip my toes into the waters of both theories, right? As you know, I collect PSA 8 Jordans and PSA 10 Jordans and BGS Jordans. Jordans. And so do I think that there is a way that you can collect Jordans at a faster pace, at a more voluminous, in a more voluminous way if you buy BGS 9.5s over PSA 10s? You're damn right I do, and I've chosen to do it on a lot of my cards. And if you guys don't know yet, there's a show that I do every week or a couple of weeks with my good friend Zach up in Henderson, Nevada, just outside of Las Vegas, where Zach has decided to collect only BGS 9.5 Jordan. That is his pathway, and that's the pathway he chose. And one of the main reasons is they're still gem mint, and the premium for PSA 10s is just so high, it's just exorbitant and it's price prohibitive for him. And so that's why he chose BGS 9.5. So Jose, that's a great question, and everybody has a different perspective on that. A lot of people do like to collect PSA because of the money back guarantee if they're fake. And when collecting not just Jordans but 90s cards in general, a lot of these high-end cards, there are counterfeits out there, and you guys need to be super careful. PSA has a money-back guarantee, and as best I know, BGS and SGC do not. I don't know, but that is my understanding, is they do not give you your money back if it is determined that a fake or counterfeited card is sitting in one of their authentic slabs or one of their legitimate slabs. If the slab's fake, that's a whole nother deal, right? I don't think PSA is giving your money back if you buy a fake PSA slab. But if PSA grades and slabs a card in a PSA holder that turns out to be counterfeit, money's coming back to you. And I think that's another reason. Also, the PSA set registry is another reason for that premium. That set registry matters to a lot of high-end collectors. GG Cards asks, why do grading companies grade modern cards so much harsher than older cards? I am 1,000,000% with you, and I've done a video on this, and I've got some eye candy for you guys. I pulled up a Mickey Mantle PSA 6. This is a Mickey Mantle PSA 6. It's a random Mantle PSA 6 that I pulled up. That was the feature card on Card Ladder for the Mantle PSA 6. There it is, right? It is a PSA 6. It is PSA graded. It is diamond cut on the right-hand side and left-hand side. It's horizontal diamond cut terribly. The top and bottom actually don't look diamond cut, so I'm not sure how that works. It's almost like a trapezoid picture frame here. The corners are rounded. Not just one, but every single corner is furry and rounded. The edges are not precise. The centering is terrible. I will say the color looks pretty good and the registration looks good. I think if you look in just to the left of Mickey Mantle's right eye, or just to the left into the blue left of his head, you'll see there's even some surface where it looks like that's a dark discoloration right here where my cursor is. This card got a 6. Yet this card also got a 6, which has pretty damn good corners. It's got great edges. It's off-center, but not nearly to the extent as the Mickey Mantle. The coloring on this one is great as well. I can't see the back on either one of them. I know that factors in, and I also know that sometimes you can't see the potential surface flaws from a 2D picture, so there could be surface flaws on this Jordan 6. But just generally speaking, I appeal between that 6 and this 6. The grading standards are not supposed to be different when you're looking at a 1952 card, a 1986 card, and a 2020 card. The grading standards should be different. The expectations of the submitter should be different, right? You should expect a higher grade on an ultra-modern card than you would on a vintage card because it was harder to preserve those cards, and the card stock wasn't nearly the same quality in most cases, including this 1952 Topps and this 86 Fleer and this 1989 starting lineup. That's a PSA 6. Look at the centering on that. It's not that off. In fact, I would guess that the left to right centering and the top to bottom centering are sufficient to push PSA 10 standards, if that's 60-40 or 55-45 or whatever you think it is. It's on PSA's website. I don't see any glaring surface defects. Just the fact of the matter is, just generally speaking, how can that card be a 6 and this card be a 6? The disparity between the conditions of those two cards is so egregious and so disparate that they don't deserve the same grade. So in response to the question, it drives me freaking bananas, GG Cards, that this is the way it is, and there is no question that PSA has tightened up their grading standards, or at least the interpretation of the grading standards for what is a 6, what is a 7, what is an 8, what is a 9, what is a 10. It's gotten much, much harder. As far as replies, I just said great question. I'm going to rant about this. Favorite MJ cards that are non-basketball? Sports Cards PNW asks. And I think this is a great question, so I hit it with a thumbs up. I'm going to talk about every question on here. And the only one that comes to mind is this card right here. This is the only baseball Jordan that I care about. It really is. I know he's got some golf cards out there. I think the first time I saw golf Jordan was on the back of the famous 1990 Skybox Jordan. Has him golfing on the back. But this is the only non-basketball Jordan baseball card that I care about. This is just my personal opinion. I know there are some baseball autographs and baseball rookie card parallels and inserts and all that. I get all that. And I'm sure some of those out there are very valuable. But this is the only one that matters to me. And a lot of people who may not be old enough think that, whoa, this is when Jordan went to play for, the White Sox during his, brief time off from the NBA, and then he came back and won 3 titles. No, it's actually before that. He was just taking batting practice and Upper Deck through this promo card as SP1 in the 1991 Upper Deck baseball set. So this is, as far as I know, the first Michael Jordan licensed baseball card where he was taking batting practice with the White Sox while he was still playing with the Bulls. So this is before retirement, before first retirement. So this is the only one that matters to me. And again, if we just look at the card, it's not the rarest card in the world. And I know Upper Deck knew people are going to buy the shit out of those packs just to get this card. 19,000 graded by PSA, 11% gem rate. The PSA 10's a pop 2,140 for goodness sakes. And if you look at the history of this card, you can see this card was well over $1,000 only 2 years ago, and it got even higher than that. I mean, somebody paid $2,000 for this card, which today is worth about 1/5 of that, $400, something like that. If we look at the last couple weeks, just out of curiosity, here's the last 2 weeks. Again, not an uncommon card. Just in the last 2 weeks, the card sold 9 times, but it's a pretty steady $400 card. It seems like that is the new floor. That's the price point equilibrium for that card. That's the only baseball card that matters to me, just my personal opinion. Who are the top 5 or 10 imposters? This is a great question. Who are the top 5 or 10? I like to call them imposters, as a set collector. These are the guys that snuck into these insert sets. Not Ewing, Olajuwon, Jordan, Kobe, Shaq, but these guys are kind of imposters, right? That crept into the big MJ insert sets from the 90s on the regular. Like, who's always showing up in there? I've got some options here. So I've got them pulled up. We're going to kind of talk through some of these. I can't go through all of them because sometimes there are really obscure dudes out there that snuck in. Some of these guys, I call them pseudo imposters because I get why they included them, because sometimes they had career years, the year they were put into these insert sets or the year before. But one that comes to mind is Marcus Camby. And I'm like, man, nobody collects Marcus Camby. He's got no long-term real historical relevance. But then you go look at Marcus Camby on Basketball Reference and check it out, man. He was a 4-time block champ, 4-time all-defensive player. He was the all-rookie team, and he was a defensive player of the year. There's only so many people that can claim that they were the defensive player of the year. I think there's 43 times they've given that award out, and a lot of those are repeat winners. So the fact that he's one of those, 40 guys on earth or somewhere around 35 guys is a pretty big deal. He was also the number 2 overall pick. His PER is 17.8 career, which is pretty damn good, and he was almost a career double-double. He's a pretty good player, man. And then look, if we go down here, he was great in college, of course, for the University of Massachusetts playing for Cal. But if you go look at it, like his rookie year, he came out of the blocks at 15 points, 6 rebounds, over 2 blocks a game. And then the next year, he did kind of settle from there as far as scoring points. He was never really offensive oriented, but he scored 12 points, 7.4 rebounds, and had 3.7 blocks. And then later in his career down here, he's almost a double-double with 3+ blocks. 5 times in his career, he blocked more than 3 shots per game. That's pretty elite company. So Marcus Camby's not the true imposter. He's a pseudo-imposter. But just looking through some of these other ones, I've got the 1996 Golden Touch, Terrell Brandon, Vin Baker. Vin Baker was an all-star. Terrell Brandon was an all-star. These guys don't roll off the tongue when it comes to great players that you would want to pull, in an insert set. But those dudes were great players. Allen Houston, same thing, out of Ballard High School in Louisville, Kentucky. He was a fantastic player in the NBA. Unfortunately, he went to the Knicks where, they were scoring in the 70s and 80s 90% of the time. Latrell Sprewell was great in his time. Stephon Marbury got blackballed from the league, but he was a damn killer in the NBA. Damon Stoudemire came out of the gates on fire. Mighty Mouse. So I think you're going to find similar type numbers backing up the inclusion of guys like this, like we just looked at for Marcus Camby. But Ben Baker, Terrell Brandon, some of those guys, Allen Houston, Kerry Kittle's another one who I never got a chance to play against, but I was supposed to play against in the state championship here in Louisiana back in 1992. Of course, Kerry Kittle's went on to become an absolute animal in college, a first-team All-American for Villanova, and then ended up playing for the Nets. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I think John Calipari chose Kerry Kittles over Kobe Bryant because Kerry Kittles was more game ready and Kobe needed some seasoning and he was young and straight out of Laura Marion High School. Check me out on that. I think that's the case. I'm not certain, but I think that's when Calipari was pulling the strings and deciding who they were going to draft with the New Jersey Nets during his brief tenure as an NBA coach. Some other guys, Antoine Walker. I despised Antoine Walker. He's one of the most inefficient players of all time. But again, Antoine Walker was kind of ahead of his time. He's a big man shooting threes, kind of a big point forward guy. Some other guys, there's the aforementioned Kittles, Damon Stoudemire, Camby again, and this is from the 1998 Skybox Premium Soul of the Game insert set. Some other ones, let's see. This is the one that really I think you can call him an imposter, and he does show up on the regular. It's Joe Smith. He was the number 1 overall pick, and I've got Joe Smith pulled up here. There's Joe Smith's 1990, that's his Flair Anticipation card. I think that was 95, right? Yeah, 95 Flair Anticipation. There's Joe Smith, the great Joe Smith. I've got him pulled up over here on Basketball Reference. He was the number 1 overall pick. They called him Beast. I'm not sure why. Here's the deal. He came out of the gates guns blazing out of Maryland. I think he was the National Player of the Year, number 1 overall pick. Had a pretty damn good first couple seasons in the NBA. Averaged 15-9 as a rookie. Averaged 19-8.5 as a second year. And then it started to tail off a little bit. And he played forever. That's the thing. And so Joe Smith is a career 11-6 as a career. Shot 45% as a big man, not great, and had a just barely average PER. So Joe Smith is the one that kind of shows up the most. But all those other guys, you can call them imposters, but these guys were either making all-star teams or pushing for all-star teams or just played with enough flair that they were relevant. So that's who I would include in some of my imposters. Again, that's a fun diatribe. We could really dive down that rabbit hole and rank those, rank the biggest imposters in 1990s insert sets, and that might be a nice video. So you've given me a great idea, and that was a faded cardboard that gave me that idea about identifying imposters. That would be a great video in the future. I think I will do that. Would like to hear this is Malene Chez, this is Jose again coming in. Malina Chez, I guess maybe is how I pronounce it. I don't know. Would like to hear my top 10 inserts of MJ all time. And this is the last question we'll look at. I can't do this. This is a video for sure, and I won't choose. I refuse, Jose. I'm not going to do it, but I'll share some pictures. I went into my PWCC vault, and I sorted some of my favorite Jordan inserts in order of value, and then I kind of worked backwards and picked out some of the cards that I thought were the most visually appealing, and we'll just do a slideshow of 10. Of course, the 1998 Skybox Thunder Noise Boys, a beautiful die cut card featuring the almost emblazoned orangish, yellowish fire Noise Boys in the background with Jordan in the 23 in the black uniform. That's one, in no particular order. Of course, you've got to go with the Ultra Scoring Kings. I wish I could get a better picture for you guys. The back is actually better. The front is just difficult to take a picture of. When you catch a good picture of this card from the front, it surely fits in anybody's top 10. Just aesthetically appealing in all sorts of ways. Next would be, I would say, Platinum Portraits. It's just very unique with the pinhole die cuts, kind of creating the Jordan face. The back is kind of like the reverse image of the same thing. Those are actually pinholes within there, and of course it comes from 97 Metal Universe, which is my favorite set from the 90s by far, and it's not even close. That's one. I'm sorry, I keep showing you BGS minimum gems. That's been the topic of conversation about how everybody's going to get their ass handed to them with these grading scale changes that BGS walked back. Thank God. I was going to get punched directly in the testicles by BGS if they changed those to Gem Mint, from Gem Mint to Mint Plus. Even though I don't see the big deal, it doesn't change the card. The card is already the card. That's what it was graded. Changing the name from Gem Mint to Mint Plus should not affect it because the card itself is not changing, but perception is reality. And I think those changes might have affected these minimum gems and quad gems more than any other card in a negative way. But this Lynchpins card is a beautiful card. 1998, it's Metal Universe as well. Lynchpins, card number 8, Jordan right there. Another pinhole die cut card, and Jordan's wearing the Concord 11s. Another card, and again, this is in no particular order. Intimidation Nation's a unique set. I toyed with the idea of collecting this entire set in high grade, and then I sort of gave up on it, but of course I kept the Jordan. So this is the Jordan Skybox Intimidation Nation, again from 1998 Skybox Premium, and that's a minimum minimum gem as well. A meltdown is just really cool. If you guys have ever held one of these in your hands, the front is hard to grade, the back is hard to grade. I mean, to find this card without a bunch of crap all over the corners is really difficult. The edges tend to shred real easy. This is a very low pop 16 PSA 10 copy of the meltdown card, but this is a very beautiful card. Again, a card that's very difficult to photograph, so that one I would include that in my top 10. And then the Diamond Dimensions, which is probably the card that I picked up on this list most recently. Again, hand serial numbered numerator, stamped denominator. So 52 out of 100. Again, another minimum gem from 1997 Upper Deck. This is the Diamond Dimensions, serial numbered to 100. Beautiful card there, just intricately die cut. Go ahead and count all the sharp edges, and that way you know how hard it is to find one of those things in high condition. That BGS 9.5 min gem's a pop 13 with no BGS 10s out there. Again, everybody's going to recognize this card. Probably one of the most unique cards ever printed in the 90s. It's the 1996 EX2000 cut above with the saw blades at the top. Lots of fakes out there. Please do your due diligence, especially if you're buying a non-PSA. Even in PSA slabs, be very careful. Make sure you're buying a legit one. There are counterfeits out there that are very difficult to tell. And the best way to tell, and I'm not an expert on this, I always consult smarter people with more experience as far as spotting fakes and counterfeits, but you can tell by the inside of these saw blades, the way that they're shaped. This one's legit, I assure you, because it was guaranteed by a lot of people who really know their stuff. But before you buy one, please make sure you're buying a real one. But this cut above definitely fits squarely in there. Just a cool card on the front, cool card on the back. Everything about it's unique. It's just a big saw blade in the background. And then the script, the font down here for the cut above is just really badass, I think, as well. What else do we have? The rave review reminds me of Cubert. I've talked about it all the time. If you're old enough to remember that video game from the 80s called Cubert, with a little dude with no arms but feet popping around on those little things trying to eat the balloons and stuff, that's what this reminds me of. But this rave review just pops. It really pops. And it's got Alien Jordan here as well, like a couple of other cards where it doesn't even look like Michael, to be quite honest with you. And that's a BGS 9.5 mixed gem. No, it's a minimum gem copy as well. What else? Is this the last one? Last card. You can't go wrong. One of Jordan's first insert cards. It's his 1986 Fleer sticker. There's just something about this card, with Jordan wearing the Jordan 1s. The tongue is out. He's driving left. He's probably going to yoke that thing. I think that's Otis Birdsong that's not even really has any chance to guard him. He's got an arm on him, but we know if Jordan gets shoulder to shoulder, he's yanking it. So I like this 1986 Fleer sticker as a real simple, clean, go-to early year Jordan insert. And it doesn't hurt that it's an insert rookie card as well. Sorry to disparage, again, all the star lovers out there, but I consider this an XRC as well from his rookie year. So there's 10 right there, just to name a few. And that's it. That's all I wanted to do was go through some questions and answers, give you guys something to talk about. We kept it under 30 minutes. That's pretty impressive for me. You guys know I'm relatively long-winded, but thanks for everybody that submitted questions. Jose, Faded Cardboard, Sports Cards, PNW, GG Cards, The Cross Up, Os MJ Dad, thank you, I guess, for chiming in about how great you think Star is. And then M Jordan DeGoat, thank you for your question as well. Anyway, as always, if you guys like more content like this about Jordan, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you know when I drop new videos. They're coming out all the time, especially Jordan-centric videos, but primarily 90s basketball and basketball in general, and then sometimes just pure NBA talk. Got a couple of recurring shows on the channel where we just talk about NBA. It has nothing to do with cards, so if you like that kind of stuff as well, sort of like a Cajun version of Bill Simmons and JJ Redick, tune into those shows as well. And like a Cajun Ryan Russillo is basically what we're trying to accomplish, where we just talk about modern events in the NBA and historical stuff that happened in the NBA as well. So lots of stuff, lots of content for anybody out there that likes Jordans, just card collecting in general, card investing, NBA basketball, or fantasy basketball even. From here and there, I'll touch on that since I'm such an avid fan of fantasy basketball as well. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Keep collecting, stay positive in the hobby, and peace.